genetically they're slow metabolizers of caffeine, they can get away with it more. And welcome back to The Journey.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome.
This is your host, Benjamin Wagner, and
Joel Reese.
Co-host Joel Reese. So we are going to get into part 2 of Crushing Anxiety, part 2. All right, so
part 2.
This is day number 6 that I've been off of the drug of choice for most Americans, which is, you guessed it,
coffee.
So earlier we talked about... Okay, so something really cool about the Journey podcast is we try to do things that actually can help people, things that I've experienced, things that you've experienced that can help people, right?
Right.
So we want to walk in peace and rest and enjoy life, I think, right?
Right.
Maybe. And so what are some of the triggers? We're going to talk about some anxiety triggers, and one of them for me would be caffeine. So day number 6, I feel way more peaceful, happier, maybe a little sleepy, but better. I sleep better, way more chill. I feel really good. So let's get into what are some of your triggers in life that can cause you to get out of rest? Is there anything specific?
Well, I think stress is the biggest one for probably a lot of people, but that can be induced from so many different things. I mean, I think coffee can contribute to that. I know a lot of people crave coffee, but I think for me, like, something that comes to mind is sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Typically, I'm a people person, and I like people. I like to be around people, and I like to be where the action's at. But as I've grown to be a little bit older, I'm finding that sometimes when I approach environments that are super busy and chaotic, that I like to just take everything in before I just enter into the middle of it all and observe what's happening, because I feel overwhelmed. I feel a bit of anxiety. So I guess I would call that social anxiety.
Right.
But you know, anxiety comes in many different forms. That would be a trigger, though. Sometimes is walking into an environment that's super chaotic, not knowing what's going on, and trying to figure out, okay, where's the exit here if I have to bounce, you know?
Right. So one thing I noticed about the coffee, the caffeine thing, is it ramps up my awareness, and I feel like it affects your central nervous system, it affects your adrenaline, which we're not doctors, by the way. We're not, I don't think you're a doctor, right?
Well, like I was saying on the last podcast, Google's great for
Dr. Google.
But
yeah, we know all about it.
ChatGPT now.
Right. But for real, it's interesting how I think we know what to do. Like we know, at least I know what the triggers are in my life. I've paid attention to see what those are. You know, I'm 45 years old, and I've found out there's certain things I know I shouldn't do, but I do anyway sometimes.
Right.
Until the pain gets bad enough or the uncomfortable situation gets so uncomfortable where I'm like, you know what? I'm done with whatever it is. So a couple things I want to mention is, you know, social anxiety is a real deal. I think a lot of people experience it mainly at church or any large function that I've been to. The older I get, the more I'm like, you know, I think I'm not the only one.
Right.
That walks into the room and you're like, I think I'm just not into it today. Or halfway through, I'm like, I want to get out of here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And part of that could be just because you really didn't feel inspired to go in the first place, but you felt pressured to go.
Yeah.
So you have somebody walk up to you and said, you need to be at this place, or you need to be at church, or you need to be at this event, or whatever it is. So you feel pressure and you go, right?
It's just the constant, feeling the urgency that you always got to be moving. You always got to be going nonstop.
Yeah, that's part of it too. And so let's move into, you know, what is social anxiety and why getting off caffeine could actually help. I mean, I think the stats are about 70% of people that experience anxiety drink some sort of a caffeinated drink, whether it be an energy drink or coffee or whatever it is. So just that alone, I mean, a lot of young adults, especially the energy drinks, Red Bull, all of them, they taste amazing.
Right.
And they're great. And you might not even feel the effects of it right away as far as the anxiety, but it's like later on the day or the next couple of days when you feel like you have to have it. So you keep drinking it over and over and over, and it depletes your body from basically rest. And there's a cool little study that talked about caffeine, how it basically blocks the most important sleep hormone in your body, which is called adenosine. And adenosine actually builds up throughout the day. And the sleep hormone basically is blocked when you drink caffeine.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty...
I've heard of that, yeah.
In my mind, I'm thinking, well, why would you drink caffeine if it does that? Well, the thing is, you can still go to bed and go to sleep, but the quality of sleep so far hasn't been amazing, but I can tell I'm sleeping deeper.
Right. Whereas when you're on the caffeine, it actually interrupts your sleep.
I think it's not...
Your cycle's off. Like you're not getting adequate sleep, or it throws your REM off.
I think so. I don't think you're going into the deep sleep. And, like we talked about in the last episode, I think that a lot of people that are slow metabolizers of caffeine, which means it doesn't really affect them as much, genetically they're slow metabolizers of caffeine, they can get away with it more.
Yeah.
A couple of friends of mine will drink a full cup of coffee at 10 o'clock at night. They sleep, they say good. So I'm considered to be a fast metabolizer of caffeine, which kind of stinks because I feel the effects of it right away, and then I crash.
That's really interesting. I think I might be a hybrid because sometimes I drink it, I get wired, and I feel like I can just go forever. And then there's other times I drink it and I get super tired and I crash. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting because a lot of people drink it in the mornings. I find that if I drink hot coffee in the mornings, I tend to be sleepier. Like I want to go to sleep almost. Right. It's weird. If I drink something cold and concentrated, I'm more wired and awake. If I drink coffee later in the day that's hot, right, I feel more charged. So I don't get it. It's really interesting.
Wow.
I've been trying to figure that one out for a while.
That's cool.
I don't drink it that much as it is, but when I do, that's usually the experiences that I have.
Right. So something else I was thinking of too is, general anxiety. We want to get rid of the general anxiety in life. And I think a lot of times, separate from the caffeine, which caffeine to me is just an obvious thing. We should probably not be consuming it. It's really not healthy for us. It should be used as maybe as a tool.
Right.
Like if you're, have to, stay up all night for a test, or you are traveling and you cannot stay awake,
Right.
But to consume it every day, if your body can handle it, great. But most people don't even realize, they might not even know how good they would feel if they got off of it.
Yeah. The benefits.
They might not know. They're like, oh, I feel great. They get off coffee. A couple of people on YouTube, some testimonials, they said it took them 3 months to where they felt like they were back to normal, where they felt like they were back to themselves again.
So they had to go through a
withdrawal
and the withdrawals and everything to feel back to
they had to tap back into their natural energy all over again.
Wow.
So I feel like I'm doing that because I had moments today where I felt like a zombie. I was just staring like this. I just felt kind of numb, but I know my body's trying to heal, is trying to get back towards it's living off the natural energy that we're supposed to be living off of.
Right.
So something really cool too is that the obvious triggers in life that we're not willing to give up, like the obvious things that we know we shouldn't be doing, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but we have to for some reason, most people have to go through these extreme, terrible circumstances where they feel so bad and so sick or so stressed, they finally have to give them up.
Right.
So I just want to tell you guys, you don't have to get to that point. You don't have to get to the point where you're so stressed out or so worked up, you go into a panic attack because you just can't give up your vice. You can't give up your, whether it be alcohol or caffeine or whatever it is that's causing the obvious trigger that you probably know deep down inside that's the trigger. You know what it is.
I think people benefit more from pushing themselves to attempt to get off things that would normally be hard for them to give up and try it, because the rewards they'll gain later will be the effects of taking the better path of you know what, I'm going to be better about this. I'm going to do better about this. I'm going to actually improve what I'm doing and take on more natural, organic, healthy things instead of putting all this processed drug-induced stuff in my body that makes me feel super high all the time.
And it could be obviously a delayed gratification, right? But delayed doesn't mean I'm still experiencing gratification of feeling peace, right? But I don't have that major dopamine rush from caffeine and coffee that everybody loves.
Right.
It's like giving your brain a warm hug in the morning when you drink caffeine and coffee. You're like, oh, it feels so good.
Isn't it interesting that I find it interesting that coffee is considered a drug, but it is. It's the caffeine.
Right.
So that's why people go through withdrawals, just like anything else. It's like you try to get off. Does that ever just fascinate you?
It feels like it changes your personality too.
Yeah.
Because
people get angry if they don't get their coffee because they're so hyped up on it.
I'm way more irritable on caffeine because whenever the high is gone, like around noon or lunch, I'm like so sleepy and I'm really irritable.
How many people have you known that says, if I don't get coffee in me this morning, I'm not going to have a good day? Or if I don't, there's this mindset, I think, in society or amongst humanity where they think, if I don't have this, I'm not going to have a good day. How much of that do you think is a mindset versus that they really got to have that? Or how much is it actually induced by the addiction to what?
I believe it's 100% because of the chemicals involved with the caffeine, the dopamine, the brain, and the receptors. Because we'll do a whole podcast just on dopamine, talking about that. Because
it'd be good. Serotonin.
Yeah, because the dopamine endorphins. People are oversaturated with dopamine every day. Looking at social media is a dopamine boost. Caffeine, sugar, all these things give you just constantly dumping dopamine into your blood.
Yeah, how many people are following me? How many people liked my post? How many,
right?
How many people saw what I just did? This is amongst, humanity. It's happening.
Right. So dopamine detox. We're going to do a whole podcast on just the dopamine detox, which is not fun for you at first, but then you realize that the delayed gratification is amazing.
Right.
Like my son's really good at that. My youngest son, Mike, has been building a cabin and with his best friend, Elijah, and they're doing extremely crazy hard labor, cutting down the logs, dragging them down through the forest, tearing off all the bark, and doing all the sanding of the logs. I mean, I worked for 2 hours today. I was like, wow, this is
pretty intense,
crazy, but it's like it's delayed gratification. So hard work and doing things that are not easy, that does release a lot of stress, I think, too, and anxiety. And then just being willing to make that sacrifice, just like with the caffeine, giving up things for a better life. You're exchanging it for a better life. And that's part of the journey, I think, Joel, we can talk about every single time we talk about solutions to problems, because the journey, basically, our focus is to help people find solutions to problems, right?
Right.
And this problem we're talking about is anxiety. So anything to fix that. And real quick, I know we're about ready to wrap this up, but I really feel like in life, if we don't feel inspired to do something, like if you don't feel inspired to go to an event or do certain things, and you're dealing with anxiety, don't go because you're trying to perform for people.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my biggest issue is that why are we going? Why are we doing this thing? Oh, it's because so-and-so expects me to be there, which there's times where you have to be at places. That's normal life.
Yeah.
But if you don't really want to go to let's say the football game where there's 100,000 people and you're dealing with anxiety and you get there and you just had the worst time ever, but you keep going back because if you don't, people are going to think that you're
because you care about
weak.
what people think rather than taking care of yourself. And I think that's a good point. It's important that we take care of ourselves, that we don't get so caught up in worrying so much about what I get that it's hard for all of us. It can be for anybody.
Sure.
But not being so focused or caught up on what people think about us or what we think they're thinking or saying, but just doing what is the healthiest for us. So because if we're in a healthy place, we can be better help to others. If we're not healthy, we can't be much of a help to others.
I agree.
That's good.
And we'll talk about church and all that in a different episode too, which is going to be super awesome to
probably a whole series on that.
Yeah, just because we're Christians, we want to be a part of other Christians' lives, right? And there's a whole big misunderstanding, I think, about what church is, and we'll talk about that.
And just the Christian walk and all that stuff.
So today we want to thank our sponsor for today, which is Amio Life. Amio Life, me and Joel actually been taking the product for a couple months, and I've been taking it actually for closer to 2 years, but introduced it to Joel about 2 months ago. So if you want a strong immune system, there's a product called Structured Silver. And Structured Silver...
It's amazing.
It is amazing. So what it does is it doesn't absorb into your body at all. It's not a vitamin. It's not a mineral. and it's basically silver bonded to a water molecule, and you drink it, no side effects. It just eliminates bad bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus. And it is the best, I think, supplement you could ever take for overall wellness and well-being. It's like a natural antibiotic alternative. So it's not an antibiotic, but it's like an alternative to an antibiotic. And I mean, so many people, I think their track record is 80% of the people that try it continue taking the products. 80%.
So good. Yeah, it really is good. And so I highly recommend it. I've been taking it since about 2018, and it's been amazing. I love the benefits of it, and it's definitely something worth adding to your, into your weapons of choice to fight against disease, infection.
If you deal with sinuses or respiratory issues, stuff like that.
Keep your immunity strong.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
System strong. But yeah, we'll be posting a link down in the description. You can click, and we've got a special promo code SS15. You get 15% off your order.
Yep.
So check it out, and we'll make sure to put all that in the details.
Go to Ameo Live, it's ameolife.com, ameolife.com. So thank you guys for listening to the podcast today, which is part 2 of Crushing Anxiety, day number 6, no caffeine.
And if you guys are liking the content, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and comment below. Let us know if you guys are getting anything out of this. We'd love to get your feedback, and make sure to support the channel.
Love you guys. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.